Going forward, towards the movie. I request you to please subscribe to our channel, it gives us motivation.
In the beginning of the film, we are introduced with a pilot, named Whip, in a hotel room. It seems like he is drunk, he has taken a lot of quantity of alcohol. And he was still drinking. He was going to have a flight, after an hour. In such condition, it could be dangerous to control flight. In order to keep him awake, Whip was taking cocaine. He leaves for a flight, where he meets his county pilot, Ken. To discover himself ailed, he demands painkillers from air hostess. States that he couldn't sleep for 2 nights, so he feels like. On the other side of movie, we are introduced with Nicole, who was addicted to drugs. She comes to a drug dealer to take drugs. The dealer warns her about to intake the minimum quantity of drugs, as it is too dangerous. Now we again watch Whip in the movie. He takes off the plane without noticing the severe weather. He decides to switch autopilot mode and starts to take off himself. In such terrible condition, they hardly take plane in higher altitudes towards sky. Whip wants to take plane above the clouds, so they could experience a clear weather. Throughout, people face a lot of trouble. Co-pilot of Whip, Ken, neither like his decision, nor does his condition seems fine. But he couldn't say anything to him as he was a captain. Luckily, they are successful in this mission, and all the passengers are safe. Here on passenger side, Whip, excuses for inconvenience. During apology, Whip mixes alcohol in the juice. He drinks in front of everyone. Later on, an air hostess comes towards cockpit, an area where plane could be controlled. He watches Whip, closes his eyes and sleeping, and plane was on autopilot mode. Air controller on Earth, they control position of planes, contacts Ken. Informs him, plane landing area is ready. As Ken press some keys, plane becomes out of control. The plane shown outside, it was turned out. In such serious condition, Whip was normal. Now Whip says to Ken to pull out the entire luggage from plane. During that, the hydrologic handle was too out of control. Plane was more difficult to handle after that. Whip, to an air hostess on cockpit, asks to pull down a lever. But after this too, the plane was out of control. Everyone was in danger. Later, in a result of a jerk, an air hostess falls down and gets faint. Now the plane, down towards was about to crash. Whip knows that everyone was about to die, and no one would survive. He records something in cockpit. He declares that he loves his son. Whip again riskily take a controller on handle, and turned over it again. Resultantly, it strikes on passenger side. A hostess dies, while saving the child. On Earth, we notice Nicole. He took an overdose of drug. She was taking towards a hospital. While taking her towards hospital, people watch a plane near this was flipped. On plane, we watch Whip was ready for crash landing. Both of the engines of plane have been destroyed. Plan by flipping it, try to land in field. Later on, a wing collapses with a tower, and plane was badly shaken. Land severely, and the plane was divided into 2 parts. Most of the passengers dies in this plane accident, rest were injured. Whip was faint because of his head was shaken. As he wakes up, he finds himself in a hospital. He meets 2 men, one was his friend, second was his boss Charlie. He appreciates him, as he considered Whip has hardly managed the plane. And he saved the life of many passengers. As 600 people died, and many were injured. Later on we watch, few people came to interview him. After they leave, his friend offers him alcohol but he rejects. When everyone leaves him, he goes for smoking at corridor. he meets two people, one was a cancer patient and second one was the girl. The same girl Nicole, she has taken overdose of drug. Here Whip and Nicole befriend each other. He takes Nicole's home address and promises to visit and leaves. At his house, Whip receives a call of his boss Charlie, who informs him, according to his report he was drunk. As we have been in a case, we are going to meet a lawyer. Charlie was helping so, as it was the problem of his airlines. Charlie was in danger. If they lost the case, he would lost his airlines too. So, he hired a famous lawyer. As in that accident, 600 people were died. Someone was responsible for that too. Whip forgets his promise of stopping alcohol. Whip intakes a lot of alcohol and reaches at Nicole's home. As he watches, the landlord of Nicole was raping her because she was out of money. Whip gives money to the landlord to get out of the problem. He takes Nicole to his farmhouse. During all this, avoiding press media because his reputation was ruining. Whip meets the air hostess of the plane, who declared that she has witnessed that he was drunk. Here Whip knows Ken was alive but paralyzed, as his both legs stopped working. He visits Ken, there his wife and Ken was grateful about his life was a miracle. In next scene, Whip and his friend Nicole takes him towards a rehabilitation center. So, he could stop alcohol and drugs in a while. Whip becomes bored. He leaves in a while. Nicole finds him in a garage. She states they both need to be alright. Whip becomes angry and scolds her. Nicole leaves his house. Whip, when reaches his house, he watches media people over there. In order to escape from them, he goes to his wife's house. Here we know his family was too against with his drinking and were angry. He has ruined their reputation, so as he leaves his wife's house, there he was surrounded by media. He answers them weirdly, as he was still in drunk state. Because of this, his case becomes more complicated. When Charlie comes to know, he decides to live with Whip till hearing day. Instead of this, Whip managed to find alcohol, somehow. He drinks all night. When Charlie and some people come to him, he was senseless. As he wasn't having any option, he arranges everything. He gets him ready for court. Here we see Charlie and lawyer make the case strong. They accuse the allegation of being drunk. As a result of that, air hostess died. She died while saving a child from death. Here Whip stands and confesses everything, that he was drunk and even drunk today. On his confession, they lost the case, but his punishment is reduced to half. Next scene, we watch Whip in jail. He was telling his story to his jailmates. He spent 13 months in jail and also leaves alcohol. By keeping himself away from family, he establishes a good relationship with them. In the last, Whip spends time with his son. Here the movie ends.
Hello from MonkEMovie. Hope you liked the video. Show us some support by subscribing to our channel. It gives us motivation. Also, suggest us some movies for explanation.